everyone. Lovely to be here this afternoon, and I'm going to give you a few minutes on my project, and a project that's close to my heart, and that of the service organisation Zonta. I can barely see you. Who's heard of Zonta? Good, good. I'm very impressed. There are a few questions here, so keep those hands ready. Zonta is an international service organisation, very like Rotary, but it's committed particularly to women and girls, and it's from this organisation that this project grew. This project is also close to Rotary because we already get a huge amount of help from Rotary. And in fact, one of the questions I have for you is how many of you could tell me, be honest here, if you know that one of the focuses for International Rotary this year is maternal and infant health? Put up your hand if you know this. Not bad. Not bad. Jan, good on you. It is. You have 6 areas of focus in Rotary International. My kit that I'm going to talk about and the work we do covers 3 of those. It covers education, fighting disease, and maternal and infant health. So, what is it? What have I got to show you? Well, all I've got to show you, people, is this tiny, weeny little kit. That's all it is. That's all a birthing kit is. But if you're a woman in the developing world, I've got to tell you, this is the difference between life and death for you. So how do we do it? It does start with one person, and the person in our particular case that this started with was Dr. Joy O'Hazy up in the Adelaide Hills Zonta Club. Joy's a very particular woman. She's a doctor, she's very focused. And she went to the International Women's Convention in Beijing in 1995, and she heard Sally Field say, you know, you could save people really easily if you had a few clean things and put them together. And Joy goes away 5 years later. 5 years later, she has thought, I've got it. And she produces this kit. She works out what has to go in it, and she gets her mates at the Zonta Club to put one together, or to put a few together. They start with 100 one afternoon. They make 100. And from there, the whole thing grew, because they sent it to Papua New Guinea, and they had a woman there, by chance, Maxine Chaseling, up in Milne Bay, and she wanted a kit. She had devised her own kit. It had rubber boots, it had whistles, it had bells, it had all sorts of things that you really didn't know and need, and in fact, her kit didn't work, and she wrote back to this overseas pharmaceutical aid for life organisation, where Joy happened to be a volunteer, and said, I need something small, portable, light, waterproof, that will go out to the women and help them when they give birth. And this was exactly at the moment, like, how much synchronicity is this? And she produces the birthing kit. And Joy sends up the first 100 that were produced in one afternoon. They went down, they bought the plastic, and they cut it up, and they got out the gauze, and they did this and they did that, and they made 100. And they sent them to New Guinea, and they said, the deal is, Maxine, you've got to report back. The first thing you've got to do with your project is test it. Does it actually work? They send it out. Women were dying at the rate, so Maxine said, of about 44 in every 100 at that point. Yes, gosh, they were dying so quickly that people didn't really, take any notice of it. Pregnancy was almost a death sentence. When Maxine reported back, despite rain and despite great floods in the area, she reported back on the first 85. No women had died, and only 1 child had died. The kit worked. So where do you take it from there? We've now made 2 million kits since she started, and so we've built this idea. You've got to expand, you've got to get bigger. We turned the project into a foundation. Now, this is a message for us all. And I was actually telling the story today about how the Zonta International president came down and said, you've got to get the project out of Zonta. And we went, oh, really? Like, honestly? Like, how dare she do that? This was Mary Ellen Bittner, Zonta International president. And we were devastated. I wasn't at the meeting. I was a new committee member at the point. And the others all came back just about in tears. In fact, that was the best piece of advice we ever got. We set it up as a charitable foundation. It was properly managed, it was managed under a corporate structure, we got a proper financial administration, and we could go from there to other organisations like Rotary and build it. So in fact, what we did was we started building it from those early days, and we started building it in Zonta. It became an area project, it became a district project. Every part of Australia now makes birthing kits in Zonta, and they still make about half the kits that we produce every year. We have to have a vision and a mission. Any project really needs to be very clear about what its goals are. These are our vision and mission statements and the values that we attract and put around that project. The other thing that we need are partners. We really need a lot of partners. We have worked with the World Health Organization, with UNICEF, but we actually need partners in the field. To make these kits, we get people to organise themselves through Rotary clubs, through Zonta clubs, and you have what is called an assembly day. And you'll come along and you have afternoon tea. We always make a nice afternoon tea in Zonta. And you make the kits. The Birthing Kit Foundation supplies all the components of the kit, and they get sent out to the people who organise the assembly day, but you actually make the kit. The other partners, of course, that we need to distribute these kits to the birthing mothers out there in the world are the partners in the field. And we developed about 40 to 45 partners in 20 countries now who are good distribution partners for us. What's in a birthing kit? So this is the tin tacks. This is what Joy came up with originally. There's a bit of plastic, so you have a clean base for the mother to give birth on. You have actually a pair of gloves for the midwife. You had soap to keep her hands clean. You have some gauze to wipe the baby's eyes and the perineum. You have some clean cord ties. You actually put 3 pieces of string in there. And here's the question, why do you need 3 pieces of string? Because one might drop on the ground. You actually only need 2. And the most important bit is the sterile blade to cut the cord. When you go out into the field, when you go out to Congo, when you go out to Ethiopia, goodness knows what they're going to use to cut the cord. Oh, we've got a bit of a knife here, we've had it for 20 years, it's a little bit rusty. We've heard about the toilets, now hear about the knives. This is how women get basic infections, and this is how come so many deaths occur with birthing mothers in the world. About 300,000 women a year die from basic infections, mostly in the developing world, when they're giving birth. And that, despite the horror of that statistic, is a great improvement. And one of the improvements that's been out there has been this birthing kit. That need is really still out there. The chance of a woman dying in the developing world, and they do it in once in a lifetime experience, you've got 1 chance in 3,300 if you're a mother giving birth in Australia or America or somewhere similar. You've got a 1 in 44 chance if you live in Congo or Ethiopia or Somalia. That's your lifetime risk, and that's a good way of comparing whether you need a birthing kit or whether you don't. These kits go out to what are euphemistically called in the trade, I love this, low resource settings. Jan and I have been to low resource settings. What that means is there's nothing there. And when you go to Congo, there is nothing there for the women at all. You go into, it's so poor in Congo, where I went this time last year, that there isn't even any rubbish in the streets. Now, you know what Asia's like, but in Rwanda, where there's no plastic, I thought, oh, it must be because there's no plastic in Rwanda, it's so clean. Then I go into Congo, there's no rubbish. I met a young girl who had been raped, and she made her living by, wait for it, collecting plastic bags and paper bags if she found them, and cleaning them and selling them again. Now, that's why there's no rubbish there. These are low resource settings. So, that's why birthing kits are needed. Women are dying. and we need to give them the basic clean health requirements to save them. The volunteers are the people who make the kits, and the partners take them and distribute them. But our project is always changing. It's never staying static. And early on in the Birthing Kit Foundation's life, we actually started doing training as well. So we didn't just stick to sending out kits. When we get a partner, they commit to training women on how to use these kits. Now we have more and more training happening. We have training that goes on in India, in Ethiopia, in Congo, and we've just started new projects in Uganda to really embed and to expand and to get those messages through. And their messages of basic hygiene, such as Mark spoke about, and their messages about nutrition and health, and even they get into areas like microcredit, because keeping women employed and giving them an income will help them sustain their health through their life. The training has also been augmented with in-country kit production, and that's been a great boon to the people in those areas, because they actually get an income while they make the kits. Sometimes they want kits that are slightly different from our normal kit, and some of you may know Valerie Browning in Ethiopia. Anyone heard of her? And she distributes our kits, but she also makes her own, and they have a baby wrap in them. Why do they need a baby wrap? Because there's absolutely nothing to wrap the baby in when it's born out in the Afar Desert, which is a beautiful, beautiful place, but very, very few resources. We are now moving beyond the kit. We are now moving beyond just making kits and training. We've got a very new dynamic manager, and we're actually thinking about new sustainable options. At the moment, people give us money, $3 a kit. It's about to go up. You're the first group to find out. We are going to put up the price of the kit, but at the moment, people make the kit at assembly days, but they donate $3 for every kit that they make. And we are looking now at new and interesting sustainable forms of income. We are really excited about the future. We're looking well into the future. We've made and distributed 2 million kits since Joy started in 1999. Thank you very much. And we are planning to make and distribute 1.5 million in the next 3 years. But we will need your help. We will need other people to run assembly days. It's easy to join this organisation, to work with us. The assembly days are well coordinated, well organised. If you want to help us run a project, raise some money, run a project. We're happy to help with organisations. So that's pretty well all I wanted to tell you about, except one last thing. I just want to tell you a little story about when I went to Congo. And Julie and I went there, and Julie and I have been directors since the beginning, and we went on the radio station, because as Onta Clubs runs radio programs for women, and we went on the radio station, and we actually spoke on the radio station in Uvira, which is at the top of Lake Tanganyika. And everyone has a radio goes everywhere. 3 days later, this pygmy arrives at Luvungi Hospital. And this Mr. Bahindi has come and he said, "I've walked 2 days to come and meet you women." Really, we said, "Well, do sit down and have a chat to us." Very well presented man. In 2012, they had a birthing kit training program. A 3-day program was all it was. And it took them more than that to actually get all the gear up there to do the training. And he said, those women got trained. They then, from that, set up what were called midwifery clubs. The clubs where women sat down every month and talked about their experiences, embedded their learning, made sure they were doing everything right, and re-empowered themselves to keep their microcredit projects going and their sustainability going. The men in that organisation, in that community, looked at the women and thought, we can do that. They started the Union of Malengi Pygmies for Integrated Development, their own little union. They now grow their own food. They're not day labourers anymore, they said. We don't work for other people, we work for ourselves. We have our own sustainability and we are empowered. That's what training can do, and that's what this project can do. And like all these good ideas, you never know where it's going to reach. Thank you very much.